Welcome in to another episode of Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
Fantastic. Anytime we can start a Tuesday podcast with a victory over the weekend, got to be feeling good.
I see that Kathy and Shannon were not waiting for us to start the stream this afternoon or this evening.
That's yeah. Or oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Let's just move on because my brain's just not there.
Wow.
Today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's Donkey Kong holding strong. Here's what I don't understand. Donkey Kong has posted
exactly.
in the chat. He has posted in the chat. And yet the little Big Brother eye or whatever that tells us how many live viewers we have indicates that there is no viewers. There it goes.
The Eye of Sauron is what that is.
Yeah. You know what we should do? We should email Stream and be like, dude, guys, can we get like a little like of the the Tower of Barad-dûr or whatever that the eye was in, that you can put it directly under that symbol? Like, what do we have to pay you to get that? Because that would be pretty fucking sick.
We will fund the feature request.
Dude, we could Kickstarter this right now. We would have it like that. The 10 people that listen to us, easy money.
Hey, we are up to 88 subscribers.
Weren't we at 88?
Closer. Yes. So we've been at 88 for a couple weeks now.
So isn't that like we're still at 88 subscribers? Is that the appropriate?
We are still at 88, but we are up to 88.
Yes.
And we are still at up to. We are plateauing. I'm hoping we can get 12 more subscribers before week 18. And that way we can have week 18 be a live.
Michael, that is.
It's only a couple weeks away.
Real hopeful.
It's real. But we have a lot of people, and they just need to tell. We have 88 people.
Yeah.
They just need to tell one friend for every 5 people that are up there.
Let's think about this in real terms, right? We have 88 people, but that is like the old saying. Like if you're a door-to-door salesman, you got to get 10 doors before someone talks to you. A6 is going to get us 12 bots. That's perfect.
Buying the bots. I love it.
We don't care. Whatever it is. As long as the numbers go north, we're fine. NFC North for a reason. Yeah. So, and then every 10th person that you talk to, you make one sale. So you got to talk to 100 people to make one sale, right? So we might have 88 people, but that's just like us. We're just in our first run of getting people to answer the door. So it's going to take us some time.
It will.
A6 is back.
Winnings, A6 is back in the chat, so welcome back. I don't have it on here. You and I talked over lunch, I think. A6 messaged me on Facebook or something. I think it was Facebook about, is Penei Sewell the best player in the NFL right now? So that's kind of a bold statement, but I think we'll get to that. What's up, Zakwa? Steve-O.
Hey, Zakwa's here. No way. What's going on? Look at all these people. It's great. It's going to be a lively debate.
We'll get to that question, A6. I promise you.
Yeah.
We're going to do a gridiron grades and kind of do a catch up on where our guys are, not just how they're doing it as individuals on the team, but also where do they rank in the NFL within their draft class for our rookie and second year guys. So we'll take a look at, is Penei Sewell the best player in the NFL? A little bit later here.
All that tonight.
Don't leave.
On this version of Building the Pride.
Building the Pride. So news and notes. What all do we have around the NFL?
So the big thing that I thought this week, stop it, Hatters. He's always starting shit in chat. I can't stand it. So the thing to me that I kind of wanted to talk about this week from an NFL perspective was the hit on Michael Pittman by DeMonte Casey
brutal
in the Pittsburgh-Indianapolis game.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting, the two camps of thought on these big hits, right? So let's face it, the NFL has to maintain some kind of level of physicality, or let's just say violence, to be interesting, right? I mean, like, that is a part of the NFL. It's like, it's also what makes hockey also kind of fun to watch. Is like, it's this really like energetic, fast-paced sport with a lot of strategy to it. Also, they fight sometimes.
Yeah, and bone-crushing hits and fights.
Right. You know. However, there is, I think, a line. Do I know where that line is? I don't know. But like, DeMonte Casey's job is to make sure that Michael Pittman does not catch that pass. So, are there plays that Casey basically has to say, he gets to catch that ball. I am not allowed to prevent him in any way, shape, or form from catching it.
Yeah. There has to be, right? There's got to be a line.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So so the line is, my question now then is the line in a place where there are certain points that prevent Casey from effectively playing defense at all? Can offenses put Michael Pittman and other wide receivers in similar positions, knowing that the defensive player either is going to have to allow the catch, or the defensive player is going to A, get a penalty, or B, be ejected from the game in order, and then their player is going to get wrecked.
Yeah.
So, like, I would argue, if player safety is a concern for the NFL in a very real, meaningful way, from the highest levels over the organization all the way down to the team level, the answer has to be you're going to have to legislate this somehow, right?
Yeah.
And if you legislate it, it means that defensive players are going to be put in such a terrible disadvantage that they effectively can't play defense at some point. Like, Casey would have been better off to just let Pittman catch the ball, right?
Yeah, because he potentially could have just landed on the ground and not caught the ball anyway.
Right. So, but like, is that what Casey's being taught? Yeah. I mean,
I don't think he tried to almost break the guy's back or neck, right? Like, that wasn't his intent. But the NHL was going through a similar situation with hits from behind. Like, that kind of shit happens all the time in the NHL. The problem is, the thing that was bending the guy backward is the boards and the glass in the NHL, right? So you get those hits from behind, and you just have to go, all right, like a big old stop sign on the back of the jersey. You can't hit this guy if you see the back of the jersey, because it's too dangerous. And I think there's got to be enough respect for your opposition as human beings that you can't just go, I'm going to do this. I know I don't want you to catch that football, but I want you to not catch the football so much that I am willing to put your life at risk by doing stupid shit like this. Like, there has to be this respect. Like, my goal is not to hurt you, it's to stop you. So if there's going to be a thing that I might hurt you, I should not do that, right? So I think there has to be a line, and it's going to take some time to figure that out, because the defense is put at such disadvantage everywhere else. Like, maybe you should just let them tug the jersey a little bit more, and these kind of things might not happen because they won't have to. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, just, there's so much other legislation, like, they have they got to do it somehow.
It does not matter what sport we're talking about. Like, they want to legislate defense out of the game to a degree, because it increases scoring regardless of sport.
Yep.
And that is entertaining. And it's like, the whole thing is, all sports are vehicle of entertainment to put ad dollars on.
Right.
So the more entertaining it is, the more people will watch it, the more ad revenue you get.
Are you not entertained?
Yes, exactly. Like, it's basically, so like, I just think it's interesting that this seems to be something that the NFL wants. There needs to be some level of violence or physicality to the NFL. I did think it was interesting that I heard, like, I think it was Tom Brady comment on it, and he called the pass a hospital ball, because you're setting your wide receiver up to just get destroyed.
Yeah.
And like, those plays are becoming available to offenses because the risk of what the defense is going to either be penalized for or the price they're going to have to be paid by losing a starter is so high that they're risking their own players, their wide receivers' health, because they're betting that the defense won't do it. So now that becomes available to them.
I don't think that's the way that rolls, though. Like, I don't think that ball was placed there because that was the best place to have a reception or a penalty due to targeting. Right? I think it was just a poorly placed ball. I don't think that was like, oh, this is what we're going to do here. We're going to throw it so far away that they have to either hurt us and get a penalty, or we get the catch. I think it was just a poorly placed ball and then a really bad outcome. I think he's doing okay, though, isn't he?
I've heard nothing that indicates that he's not doing okay. So until I hear something that's like, oh, his vertebra got cracked or whatever, like, I'm going to hold out hope that Michael Pittman is all right, because I'm going into week 2 of my fantasy playoffs and he's one of my wide receivers.
And because he's just a human being at Christmas time.
Right. Like, he's a human being, and yeah, like, I care about him
there's
because
those things too. But
we all care about each other. Spirit of giving.
Yes.
But let's answer some questions in chat here real quick. So Donkey Kong says, when does Hooker start getting packages? And that would be the day after the season ends for the Detroit Lions.
You think so? You don't think there's going to be some wildcatty type of couple plays here or there?
So, fun note about the Wildcat: no team should ever run it. It has not worked since 2006.
That's fair.
I don't know
what I'm saying. Like, you just have this, like, he does something different than Goff, right? Goff is a pocket passer, and Hooker does not have to do that. So you could have him. Taysom Hill was originally, when they first bring in, I think it was Taysom Hill, when they first started playing him a little bit, like, you weren't sure, is he going to run it or is he going to pass it? And that was kind of the trick to those plays. I think that's kind of what Donkey Kong's getting at, right?
It might be, and only he can answer that. But if that is what he's getting at, I would say no. I don't think that there should be no packages. So, like, It is week 16 in the NFL coming up, and I don't know that I start running packages for my backup, my third string quarterback, at this point in the season when we're trying to clinch a playoff spot, clinch seeding. Stop it. There should be packages. And this guy he has practiced for less than a month. Okay. He's coming off a very serious injury. I would be very surprised to see him in a game. Like, we have not even seen Teddy Bridgewater go in to take, like, kneel downs or something.
Yeah, the soon to be retired Teddy Bridgewater.
Right. Teddy Bridgewater is the backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater has not played one snap all year, I don't think. Has he taken a kneel down? Did Goff have to go out for a play because his helmet came off? I don't think so.
I don't remember.
So, like,
for some reason, I thought, like, Goff was like was sick for a game or something. I don't remember.
No, Goff has played in all the games. So, so to me, like, kind of what we discussed like last week, the where I see Hendon Hooker coming from at this point is Bridgewater, who would be a free agent and has said that he's going to retire, will not be on the roster next year. Hooker will inherit that spot. There will be some amount of work for him in the preseason and through training camp. And that is when we are going to see Hendon Hooker on an NFL field at some point. But I do not think that we will see him in the regular season this year. Should he be getting that? I don't think that he should. I think that, like, this train has left the station. There's no more time for that at this point. It's like, you gotta
or nothing.
Like, if week 18 they're playing Minnesota and everything is wrapped and they're like, we're just not going to risk people, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't get that feeling that that's how Campbell is going to approach that game. I get the feeling that he approaches every game.
Momentum.
Right.
You want to go in with confidence. You want to go in, because that game's going to be a seeding game too, potentially, right? You want to go in with the best seed possible. And just, by the way, I did look, Teddy Bridgewater has 3 snaps.
There it is.
Week 5 against Carolina.
Okay.
3 snaps on the season. You know what? I would have taken those 3 snaps for half of his salary.
I would return a punt with only me on the field against an actual NFL special teams unit and been like, okay, guys, let's go. Put me in pads or don't. I'll take it for half the salary. I might wake up a week later, but like that's fine. It solves almost every problem in my entire life. So yeah, 100%.
Let's do this. Let's switch over to the game catch. Because we no fair catch. Yeah,
100% no fair catch.
No.
Yes, full speed hit.
Just
I'm taking it. Destroy.
If I wake up, I'm going to be happy and set. If I don't, then don't have to worry about it.
It is completely legit. What is Teddy Bridgewater making this year? Do we have any idea? It's in the millions, right?
Yeah. Bridgewater.
Yeah, I know.
I happen to have over the cap up here. This year, he has a cap hit of $2.67 million.
You're going to give me $1.3 million to have some dude run at me 20 miles an hour? I mean, like, I'm not just gonna sit there and let it happen.
All right, you're gonna try to make it.
I'm gonna juke.
Blow at least.
You know, I got a move. I got one move in me. But yeah, I'm letting. You know what? I'm gonna catch it and I'm gonna look right. And if the dude is here, the dude is here. Like I will either feel it or not. But I will get $1.3 million.
Do you want half of his next year's void too? That's another $500,000.
Yeah, you give me the void year. I just took a hit at full speed. 1.8. So
you're going to get about 1.5, 1.6 mil.
That covers the hospital visit. Let's go.
And it's a story you can tell your grandkids should you ever have them.
I can't use this side of my mouth because it's wired shut, but otherwise, Grandpa rolling in it. Yeah.
Oh shit. All right. Let's talk about Week 15.
Sure.
Because we weren't very happy to talk about most of the previous 5 games.
It's been rough.
It's been a rough stretch, but they pulled it out. Like they turned shit around this weekend, 42-17, and it really wasn't. It didn't even feel that close.
No.
I mean, granted, that's a pretty big spread, but like it honestly didn't even feel that close. What was the difference? What was the difference between the way we came out, the way that it ended, compared to the previous month, outside of turnovers? And maybe that's the thing that you want to talk about, because maybe that's just the obvious start.
The obvious answer is, Mike, I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. I went on ESPN and The Athletic and Twitter, and I talked to my buddy in England who runs Roar the Lions UK, and I asked everybody, what's the difference? And I could not find an article or an opinion, a tweet that explained why the Lions looked the way they did against the Broncos compared to the previous month. I don't know.
It's not like the Broncos were the Panthers, right? The Panthers had one win, and then they actually won this weekend, I believe.
9-7. Take that, Atlanta.
Right. But they got the dub. But like the Broncos, I believe, were 6 of their last 7 games they were winners. Like they had been strong.
Yeah, they were on a streak.
And then I was, to be honest, I was nervous. I told my son, he's like, what do you think the score is going to be? I'm like, well, we could either beat them by a touchdown, lose by a touchdown, or have some fluke last-second field goal thing. And I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be. But the way we've been playing, I'm not super confident that we are going to beat them by a touchdown. I'm like, I think we might end up losing this one. And I've never been so happy to be wrong.
Usually I have some inclination as to like my opinion of what it was. So let's go through it. The chat is talking about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
We did make 2 player swaps on defense, and the pre-snap communication was 100% better, and the O-line was healthy and played well for the first time in 5 weeks. So I know that we had Melifonwu out there for Tracy Walker, which
so good.
What is wrong with Tracy Walker? That's my question.
I don't know. It doesn't matter if Melifonwu was gonna play like this.
And then what was the other A6? Who was the other player that got swapped on defense? Was it Barnes
Kildor.
for
No,
Campbell?
I think it was Kildor.
Kildor for Jacobs, right.
Jacobs, yeah.
Walker can't cover. It's accurate. Very accurate. So Jerry Jacobs has been terrible. And you and I have said that ad nauseum all season. And
he had
when
like 3 games that he was worth a roster spot, and that was it.
Correct. I'm going to say that those got canceled out by the other terrible games, and that the remainder was awful. That's how I'm getting to my opinion. We blitzed more. Sure. Okay. Yep. So in the absence of being able to cover, you got to get home, right? And if you're rushing with 4, and you're not getting home, which we have watched a lot of this season, send a 5th guy, right? So I think that Melifonwu had a forced fumble that Bugs recovered, right?
Yep.
And then
the big guy was rumbling too. I wanted him to go all the way.
Yeah, it's always fun when the big guys get a chance to score, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was something. Who said it? The offensive line did play better, right? It was the game where Goff fumbled 3 times. Was that the Bears?
Yes, because we overcame the fumbles. I don't think we overcame the 3 interception game.
So that game they played, I thought the offensive line was like shockingly weak.
Yeah.
Considering who they were playing against. So the O-line did play better. I think that no matter what level of football you're talking about, if your offensive and defensive lines play well, you're putting yourself in a position to win the game. I don't think that Kirby Joseph is the problem. I think that Kirby Joseph, when he looks bad, is being asked to do things that he's not equipped to do. Kirby Joseph is your textbook definition free safety. What's that? Like roamer. Ball hawk. He is going ball hawk. Yeah, he wants to hang back 25 yards off the line of scrimmage, read the quarterback, run to that side, and try and pick the ball. He as a 3rd round pick, being a mid free safety in the NFL is great. Like, and I am not looking to upgrade over Kirby Joseph at any point. Like, we'll talk about it when his contract's up. So
well, even then, we talked about how you can't have even a top 10 in every single position and still be
it's just
you're going to have some mid guys that.
Well, you could do it if they were all on rookie deals.
True.
But I mean, you might as well be playing.
You have a really short window to get that many rookie
deals.
Let's
fantasy draft Madden, and that's about the only way that's going to happen, right? So
yeah. You got to have some of those mid guys that can spike into greatness, which we could see Kirby last year spiked into greatness several games. He wasn't, the number 1 safety in the NFL or anything, but like he had some really, really good games.
Yeah, if Kirby Joseph is going to be the guy that he is and account for something like 4 turnovers in a year, you have to play that guy on what he's making. You just have to. I mean, like, and like Tracy Walker is someone that I kind of go back and forth on. Like, sometimes I really like the passion that he plays with, and other times I'm like, the quarterback is fucking sliding, Tracy. You can't hit him.
Yeah.
Knock it off.
You know better than this.
Stop it. Like you're just making a mistake to make it. Like, I'm done with all that. So, I mean, I think that there's something to be said for what Kirby Joseph brings to this team in like creating turnovers. Like, he gives them an aspect of defense that not every team has that can create a turnover. And no one gets home. We don't get to the quarterback enough. We're like in the low 20s in like sack rate. So like pressures are great. I like pressures fine. But like when you actually start hitting the quarterback, it really has a detrimental effect on the other team.
And he's up the impact.
Yeah. And they tend to drop the ball every once in a while, and that's awesome. So,
yeah.
I mean, until we can get Aiden Hutchinson a tag team partner, whether that's James Houston coming back or a draft pick or a signing, like the Panthers just cut Justin Houston. Welcome to the playoff run. I mean, come on, why not?
Yeah.
Walker and his contract will be gone along with Romeo. So if you post June 1 Tracy Walker, this team saves $8 million. I don't know how you pass it up. You can re-sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You've got Kirby on the thing. You can play Branch at nickel, and then you can go into the offseason and invest in a number 2 corner. They should sign Justin Houston. They should absolutely sign Justin Houston. They're not going to, but they are. But they should. When does this team do stuff like that?
Well, we just picked up Kildor.
Yes, but there is a difference between what is his name? Vildor. It starts with a K.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on. I
like his name.
It. Let me. Kindle Vildor.
Kindle, right? Because it's like
Kindle
device.
Yes.
Kindle Vildor, like that dude can play the number 2 corner spot next week. That's fine.
Let me make a note that he was our highest graded defensive player this week.
How was he? And how many snaps?
82.7.
No shit, 82.
Yeah.
Wow, out there the whole time.
Snaps. He had. You know what we'll do? We'll just share the screen here.
We're just gonna jump into grades.
We can. I don't know. Do you want to do that?
Wait, hey, Zakwa says he has Gibbs and Laporta on his fantasy team. What round did you draft Laporta in? Because that might be just the straight up difference. Like if you got, I've heard like fairy tales of people getting Laporta like round 9 in their fantasy drafts, and I'm just like, like, congrats, that's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Final round.
We'll do final. I mean, like
you had your kicker before you had Laporta.
We'll take a look at those when we do the grades. We'll keep focused on week 15 and the ass kicking that we performed.
All right.
What were there other standouts to you in the game?
Didn't draft a kicker. That's bold.
Free agent pickup.
Right? What stood out to me was I didn't think the defense was great. I thought the defense was, of course, they're not great. I mean, they're just a group.
They started off real solid,
and but the way that I felt about the game was this is the opposite of the way that it's been going. The Lions got the ball first. And then it was like punt, fumble, punt, 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 punt. Okay, 5 touchdowns in a row. Or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think this particular team needs to start with the ball. So I was like, neat. That's one check mark toward winning right there. They didn't turn the ball over. They won the turnover battle. This team is so dependent upon that.
Yeah.
And what I didn't see was like a ton of like desperation, 4th down, bad down and distance decisions.
And we didn't have to. That was the best part, right?
Right.
We got shit done in the first 3 downs like you're supposed to.
So if we kick off first and give you a TD, it's not great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We can't play from behind. We're not built for playing from behind.
This team, the thing that kind of all season I've been like low level frustrated with is that it's very clear. It should be clear to everyone, even in the building, that the defense is just not as good as the offense. Like in the simplest way to say it.
Yep.
And like when you have a weakness, not that it's always a weakness, but it can be and has proven to be multiple times this season, you got to protect it. Or at least make it more difficult to exploit. And like when the Lions do things like it's 4th and 3 from the 35, and you don't punt to like net 15 or 20 yards of field position, you give that position back to your opposing offense, and you make life that much more difficult on your defense. And like, I do think that the way that if I was the coach, and I'm never going to be, the way that I would approach that is my offense is like upper echelon elite in the NFL, right? Like, we are legitimately stacked at all but like one or two places on offense, and like third wide receiver and a guard position every now and then, depending on the week. So I'm going to score points. It behooves me to score those points and then not allow the same number of points to my opponent.
That's how you
so
win,
like,
right?
I need to make it as hard as possible. And if that means punting and giving back 15 yards of field position with my highest paid punter in the NFL, because he's good at that shit, like, I do that.
Yeah.
So like,
That's
in
why you
this
pay him,
game,
right?
I thought that they played into that role a little bit more. We were stacked.
Yeah, see, with the whole
St. Brown is
offensive game plan.
St. Brown is
the
great.
lead. Yeah,
And Goff, if you look at Goff the whole year, I'm not going to argue for him signing an extension, but like this has been his best season playing football.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's not even close. Like, this
Right.
is better than his 2018 season,
Right.
which was previously his best.
So
So the
listen,
thing that stuck out to me,
not a fan, but I'm willing to be objective.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like, he seems like a nice enough dude as a person. I've never met him, but just from what I see, he seems like a nice enough dude. He is capable when things are going well, so let's just make things go well for him. I think, who was it? Cam Newton was talking about how he said Tua, Dak, Goff, and Purdy are not difference makers; they're game managers. And I don't think he's wrong on any of that. So let's just, I mean, if that's his capabilities, that's a ceiling. Let's lean into it and make sure as much can go right as possible, so he can do the things he needs to do. So when things do go right, he's fine. He doesn't throw a super tight spiral or super accurate downfield, and Lord knows he's a pylon. But like, if we make it so those things don't matter, all the other shit that he does is really good. So let's just focus on the things that we can make him do, that he can do well.
Yeah, I thought that Cam Newton pretty much hit the nail on the head with his assessment. Like, Tua's greatest attribute is that he throws with anticipation as well as anyone in the NFL. He doesn't have a huge arm, but he just knows where those dudes are going to be way ahead of time.
Yeah.
And like, Goff, for as well as he does several things very well. Like, he throws an in route pretty well. He throws a cut pretty well. So like, when the offenses are tailored to those strengths and take away their weaknesses, they can look pretty good. But that is what you have to do with game managers, because they don't elevate the team has to elevate them, and then the car goes forward, right? So
yep. So for me, the thing that stuck out to me that I was really happy with was our offense came out and kind of laid an egg the first three series. Punt, right? We just couldn't seem to get anything going. And what made me happy was our defense didn't follow suit. They played really strong each one of those series that after we had to punt. And our offense came back and then got their shit together and went 5 straight touchdowns. I think the biggest piece of that game was our ability to not let those punt turn into we're behind, and our defense really stepping up and going, okay, we're going to take over the game for right now and make it so they don't score either. So when you do finally get your poop in a group, we're going to be in good shape. And the team never kind of let those offensive woes get them down, and I thought that was really great. And I don't think that we've done that in the past. So I don't know if that's maybe a thing that is different from the previous 4 or 5 games, where when the offense did stutter, the defense also stuttered, and that's not a good combination. But that was kind of the first thing that I noticed during that game was the way we started, and then how we just said, okay, that didn't matter. We're just going to move forward and roll you.
Yeah, my buddy that I talked to was basically like their chess match worked better. The chess match was better, and I was like, I asked him, I was like, isn't that just coaching? If it's the chess match, isn't it coaching?
Yeah,
you know, and like
balls.
Not saying that I can't point at stuff exactly and been like, that's bad coaching. That's insufficient coaching. I know that what people like to do is to look at the result and then infer that it was bad coaching. Oh, the Lions gave up 30 points. Their defense sucks. Fire AG. Okay. I don't agree with that. Like, this team is just not, they have invested in the defense, but like, it's just not there yet. Have you guys talked about the nightmare scenario of a home playoff game against LA after taking a 4-point lead before kickoff to Stafford and the Rams? No, we have not talked about it. We're not in the playoffs yet.
About that. We did talk about, we did do a playoff simulation last week, and where we kind of talked about different scenarios. And there's definitely a scenario where we're playing LA. Granted, it'll be at home, so that'll be good. In the first round of the playoffs, and to be honest, I would not want to play LA right now. They are playing really, really well.
I don't mind playing them at all.
I'm not sure we'd beat them, to be honest.
I think that we have a better chance.
Their strength is they have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams, who's playing lights out. Their offensive line is finally healthy and gelling and playing well. And they got Matthew Stafford out there, who's finally healthy and playing. He had 10 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns over the last 4 games, and I think there's only one other quarterback in the entire NFL that has that right now. Like, their offense is playing really well, and our secondary is the worst part of our defense. So that's a matchup that scares me.
It doesn't scare me at all. So
really,
no. So the Lions have one of the top run defenses in the NFL. So bring on Kyron Williams. That's fine. Let's put immovable object up against unstoppable force. Let's see how that one goes. Everything you said about the defense is correct, but like, I would rather have a team come into Detroit from the Pacific time zone, have to play the Lions and go toe to toe because their defense isn't very good either. And like, let's see who scores the most points. That's the kind of game the Detroit Lions need to get into the playoffs, because they're not going to win a game 17-10. They're going to win a game 31-28. So like,
I agree that Zagua Lions have more overall talent than the Rams. I agree with that statement. So like, I think that's the thing that helps us, but also I think at the same time, I'm not convinced that in a shootout we would lose.
I think that we would have like a 75% chance to win a shootout. I would rather be in a shootout with the Rams than like a slugfest with the Eagles or something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I think the Rams would be the easier competitor than, say, the Eagles, the Cowboys, or the Niners. But like A6 says, the others are Minnesota, New Orleans, and maybe Green Bay as our other potential opponents. And the Rams are better than all of those. Like, they would definitely be our hardest first round opponent.
I disagree, because here's what could happen, right? Like, and this is could, so like, don't. It's not written in stone because the playoffs aren't set yet. Yeah. So you can't play the winner of the NFC South. You're not going to play. Let's assume that the Niners get the bye. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
So you're not going to play the winner of the NFC South or the winner of the NFC East. So we're the North, East, West. Yeah. So the teams that we could potentially play are the number 2 team in the NFC East, the number 2 team in the NFC West or the number 2 team in the NFC North, right?
Right.
Okay. So if the number 2 team in the NFC East is either Dallas or Philly, I don't like that matchup. I like that less than I like the LA matchup. And to be honest, we haven't seen how this team has played against Minnesota. But Green Bay, who has a chance to be the second team in the North, walked into our house and obliterated us on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't played the Rams yet.
Correct.
But I know you're a Matt Stafford fan, and I love Stafford.
Yeah.
But Matt Stafford has a tendency to be like, I can fit that ball in there. And I think that there is a better chance to generate turnovers against the Rams than I do some of these other teams that we could potentially be matched up against. So
they did fumble twice yesterday.
There you go. I mean, granted,
they
Goff will probably throw
rolled
the ball into some linebacker's face mask a couple times a game. So potato.
Or Goff as I think it'll if we played each other, I think it'll come down to which quarterback has the most turnovers.
Sure.
Is it going to be Goff or is it going to be Stafford?
And I like Detroit's chances to come out ahead in that scenario against the Rams. So, I mean, once you're in the playoffs, you're probably going to have to play somebody that you'd rather not play because they're all good.
Yeah.
Or the best of what you have. Here's Dr. Detroit.
Dr. D.
But the other way, if I'm going to take the opposing view to what I just was talking about, you could easily say Matthew Stafford could be on any given day the best quarterback in the NFC. Might just play better than anybody else in the NFC could on that day.
Yeah, he was a 90.2 grade this weekend. He was the best quarterback in the NFC.
I can't say that about Jordan Love or Nick Mullins or even Jalen
or Jared Goff. Right.
So there's always that threat. He's great. I just don't think that I think that he is better than Jared Goff.
Right.
But if you then look at the rest of the rosters, I would rather have Detroit's roster than LA's. And I will take that difference at home in a playoff game against the Rams. So the team that I do not want to play in the first round is Dallas. That is the team that I actively want to avoid.
Well, we'll see what happens in 10 days or 14 days, just under 10. When we play them in week 17, we will, after that game, we'll decide whether we don't want to see them again or if we're bring it. If we can do what Seattle, was it Seattle that just beat them? No, Seattle beat
Yes,
Philly.
It was. No, they beat Philly.
Seattle beat, yeah.
Who did Dallas lose to?
Somebody just
It was Buffalo.
Dallas.
Buffalo hung one on them.
Yeah, and it was not close. They did the things that they needed to do, and if we can figure out how that happened, then if we can do what
they had Josh Allen,
let's do it.
I mean, the simplest way to say it is they have Josh Allen
too. But defensively, they stopped them, right? That's the trick.
Which we're not going to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, if the things that that you and I just said are the reasons why the Bills beat them by 23 points. Josh Allen didn't do it. Was he not the quarterback of the Bills in their 23-point victory over the Dallas Cowboys? Cook did? Okay. So, the Lions do not have the defense the Bills do. Dads is in chat. Who's Dads?
What's up, Dads?
Welcome, Dads. I don't remember seeing him in chat before. They don't have a quarterback that can do the things that Josh Allen can do, A6. So undefeated at home.
That's undefeated at home.
Legit stat.
I believe they are winning at home by an average of 28.75.
Yeah, it's
points
some
per game.
stupid sick
blowing
number.
People out. So I'll be curious to see how we do against them.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. So my goal is that they clinch They clinch on Sunday or whenever they play next. And then it doesn't. I mean, then we're just talking about seeding, and I'm like, well, if you're in, you're
Momentum's
in.
the big thing. You start backing into the playoffs. That does not end well. It ends quickly, but it doesn't end well.
I mean, but it's also not. I mean, like it's also not like, oh, you lost to Dallas in Dallas. Like the world as we know it has ended.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Do you want to talk about grades?
Grades or Sewell. We did promise A6 that we would talk about Sewell.
Well, I think we can do that while we talk grades.
Okay.
So let's do this. Let's take a quick peek at this past game. Let's make this bigger. All right. Kindle on the defensive side of the ball. Kindle Vildor, granted only 18 snaps, but he played really, really well.
I thought you said he played 80 snaps, and I was like, come on.
18.
Oh, I misheard you.
No. But still, like, he played well, really, really well in the time that he was given. Sutton played well. Zarike didn't have a ton of snaps, but he played well. Hutch played really well.
I'm gonna interrupt. Hey, A6.
Yeah.
How many teams in the NFC have winning records? Go, because it's not the NFC South. It's half of the division. Half of the other divisions don't have winning records. Like the teams available to play that have winning records are like not there.
Yeah, 4 out of 16 have winning records.
Do the same thing with San Francisco. I mean, I know they have more, but like Detroit also has none, right? Like you can call any good team in the NFC weak this year because there's just not a lot of winning records.
Yeah.
All right, go, Mike.
Yeah. So, I think overall our guys played really well on defense, and they were graded appropriately. On offense, St. Brown killed it. Jahmyr Gibbs had a really great day. Sewell had an 85.9, which is another elite day. Goff had a great, the guys that we need to have great days had great days, right? Our offensive line, Ragnow, Glasgow, Sewell, all of those, even like Jonah Jackson and Taylor Decker were basically 65 and above. You really want to be in the 70s, but that's what you need to do to win, and we played really, really well. Overall, let me see if I can find it here.
Premium. We're doing it.
So, offense overall, we are the third highest graded offense, which is pretty stellar. We are number 5 as a team overall, offense and defense. Our defense is 18th, which it sounds like middle of the pack, but remember what we were saying last year? How if our defense could go from 37 to 16, 18, 20-ish, we'd be so much better.
Ranking our defense 37th would be crazy.
32nd.
Okay, my bad.
3-2 ND. I think we're playing really well there. Our run defense, to your point, is 4th. Rams is it in that scenario we were talking about. Rams run defense is 11th, so they're nothing to sneeze at either. But there is a big difference between 77 and 67. That's a good chunk. Passing, we're at number 5 as a team. And then just when we started looking at positions, this is where we kind of get into A6. Let's go to blocking, offensive line. Overall, offensive line, guards, tackles, and centers. Sewell is a 91. Lindstrom is the second closest. He's a guard at 88.6. Sewell's killing it.
He's playing real well.
Let's see. Let's take a look at running backs. Where are our running backs? Not blocking. Stop it. I cannot click properly to save my life. Let's go rushing. So we've got Kyron Williams up there at number 5. Montgomery's at 8. Gibbs is at 17 for run grades. Overall, Montgomery drops down to 9. But still, like 83.6 is damn good. Tyron's at 16.
Keaton Mitchell tore his ACL.
Who?
Number 2.
Keaton Mitchell. Yeah, and this 68 snap counts. If we start going, all right, let's do a filter on the number of snaps. Things get a little bit clearer. What other positions we want to take a peek at? ASIC says he's not just playing well. The way the Lions are using him at tackle reminds me of things Jason Kelce is able to do at center that nobody else can do.
In what way? Like, give me an example of what that means. Yeah, but you can put any gigantic motherfucker across from some little dude and just steamroll them all game. Right? Like, that doesn't happen often. But what is Jason Kelce doing that no other center can do? What in what way? Like, give me an example of why you're referencing that.
The motion pulling, steamrolling for sure.
He is amazing athletically. So here's what I'll say about Penei Sewell. The thing that I think that you can say about Penei Sewell is that at this moment in this season in the NFL, he is playing as well as any tackle is playing. So, like, my question then becomes, let's just say definitively this year he's the best tackle in the NFL. How many positions do you go through before you get to one of your tackles playing better than any position in the NFL? What would you take before them? Quarterback? Again? Would you take quarterback before a tackle? Right?
Oh, yeah.
100%, right? Would you take an edge rusher before, like, would you rather have the best edge rusher or the best tackle?
Who's my quarterback?
It doesn't matter. They're going to play the best of anybody in the NFL that year. They play better than everyone else in the NFL. It doesn't matter who they are. They played the best. So my point is,
to me that's really tough. Like,
right.
I would
potentially. Well, it's fucking Brock Purdy this year.
It's true.
Mr. fucking Irrelevant is like the best quarterback in the NFL through 15 weeks.
And is that because he's got Trent Williams and like a stellar offensive line keeping him upright?
It's part of it.
It's not because he's got Nick Bosa on the other side.
Sure. But so let me ask you this. Wins are a quarterback stat, right?
That's what they say.
Right. So I
disagree, but that's what they say.
But Nick Bosa helps that stat, which Brock Purdy gets credit for.
Yeah.
So in a way, but like, I guess my point is, even if Penei Sewell is playing the best football of his career and is the best tackle in the NFL this year, that is great for the Lions. It is great. There's no negative to say that's not in any way a bad thing for Detroit. But I can't ever get to the point that like he's the best player in the NFL, because I literally think that any quarterback is more important to their team than the best tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I agree.
So I mean, like, and I think that's sad because
it's just the state of the game.
Right.
It's just like hockey. Like if you don't have a good goalie, you're probably not going places.
Right, exactly. Right.
Like you can have Connor McDavid, but if you have a terrible goalie, it just doesn't matter.
It's not the question. What's not the question? Because like the question that Mike posed to me was, is he the best? He said that you and he were having a conversation, and the question was, is Penei Sewell the best player in the NFL right now? Is that wrong? If not, what is the question?
I think what he's saying is, what you're saying is he the most valuable, and who would you rather have? That's a different question. Is who's the best player? Which
you cannot divorce.
I also think you can't. Well, I think you can, but at the same time, you can't compare different positions. like is the best tackle compared to the best edge rusher, best quarterback. Who could say who's the better player, right?
Right. Yeah. You can't say, I don't think that there's a way to definitively say the level that Penei Sewell is playing tackle and the level that any other player is playing any other position are quantifiable to one another.
Yeah.
It's only quantifiable within the position. So,
Yeah,
to me,
would
there's
agree
no
with
way
that.
to answer the question. So, to me, that's the same question as who's the better basketball player, LeBron or Michael? Well, they're different eras. It's
still Michael Jordan. Let's not even bring
correct.
that up.
I know it's I mean, I'm there too.
That's a terrible example. It's clearly Michael Jordan. I don't have anything against LeBron, and I just don't care about basketball, but it's very clearly Michael Jordan.
So, 2 years ago, to Steve-O's point here, Trent Williams scored as high a grade on PFF ratings playing the tackle position than anyone they've ever graded. He had the single best season by PFF grade for a tackle that they have ever seen. Okay? So that means something. It means he was the best tackle that year. But I don't think that I can say I want that more than the best wide receiver or the best corner, or whatever. The great thing, yeah, look at that, 96.6. He had a run block grade of 97.7. I know you don't see it, and that's okay. I'm not asking you to trust it. I'm just saying that this is a method of ranking performance. That's all I'm saying. So by this metric, he had the greatest season a year or two ago.
Yeah.
So Penei Sewell is approaching that level.
Trent Williams on top for
Correct.
years, actually.
Trent Williams is amazing and will be a Hall of Famer. But I think the furthest I'm willing to go on this debate is Penei Sewell is playing excellent football right now. Conversation over. But I also don't care if he's the best tackle. I don't care if he's the best player in the NFL. In fact, I think it's kind of, in a way, a detriment. And here's why I think that.
Interesting.
He could play, let's say he's not scoring. Let's say that the PFF ratings are essentially from God, right? That is an absolute truth to how well you're playing the position, just for the sake of argument. Right. A6 understands where I'm going with this. So let's say this year, assuming that 100% is not possible, right? A 99.9 is 100% is impossible because nobody's perfect. But Penei Sewell plays the game at a 96% as how well you could possibly play all year long. That's excellent. I'm great. But and that helps the team to a degree. I don't know what that degree is. But I know one thing, he doesn't score touchdowns. He helps that. He's directly relatable to that. But
I've seen him catch a first down pass though.
That
needs to happen again. I want to see it.
Oh yeah, Joe Thomas was an absolute ball. Can you imagine? Did you guys see how much weight Joe Thomas lost? It's insane.
Yeah.
It is insane that those two body types exist in the same person. But Penei Sewell, I would say has an indirect result on the outcome of a game that's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
And the better that he but let's say instead of a 96 or whatever he could possibly play, let's say if anybody in the NFL played at an 89% PFF grade from God, that was sufficient to effectively do everything that position could do to help a team win. At 89%, you're not allowing pressures, you're not giving up sacks, you're effective in run blocking, you're not missing assignments, you're not injured. you're effectively not doing anything bad. And then everything above that level is like you're just doing that better. You're just the little margins you're just hitting a little bit better. The higher that he goes and the better that he plays, the more money he's going to cost. Like at the end of what? I think that he is extension eligible at the end of this season. He'll be going into his 4th season next year. I think that he might be extension eligible.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
Right. So a trend that has been happening in the NFL is that you're not picking up 5th-year options. You're just negotiating the 5th year into the extension, and you're just incorporating the number as like because it's a low ball for most of these guys. Like a 5th year number for like a tackle is going to be low when compared to the fact that Penei Sewell is going to reset the market.
Yeah.
Like what does Steve-O, we're going to go there.
Yeah.
Mike, look up what tackles are making. Because they do it by right and left. So just look up left tackles because that's the one that's going to make more.
Laramie Tunsil.
He is making 25 a year. Sewell's getting that. There's no doubt in my mind that he's getting more than that.
Yeah, I think he'll get more than that.
So
and with more fully guaranteed.
Yeah, let's say he's going to get. Let's say he's just going to we'll lowball. Let's say he's going to get 26 a year.
Yep.
So here's my question: you front load or back load that contract?
Depends on what the rest of your cap looks like.
Sure, but like let's think about this real quick. You have to sign next year. You very well could sign Sewell, McNeil, and St. Brown to deals, and those are all going to be near the top of their respective position groups. So what do? If you backload, you end up running the risk of becoming like the New Orleans Saints, and you're just doing that forever, right? So here's my question. So Steve-O's like backload, in my opinion, salary cap's going up in the future. That's how a lot of teams think. Here's my response: front load it. Front load it. Give them a huge number up front, so that the contract number, at least on one of these guys,
maybe you can though, because
you're gonna have to.
To Steve-O's point, the salary cap will be going up in the future. We don't know by how much. They have estimates or whatever. But you also have to sign Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? You're not going to let him walk.
Nope.
So those two guys are going to be signed the same contract year, like the same extension year. So, and then the year after that, you're going to have to sign Hutch to an extension.
Right. So there's one way
also going to potentially be a market setter, especially if he keeps trending. Like,
right.
I don't know if you can extend him and have that all front loaded.
Well, there's an easy way to get tens of millions of dollars free up to be able to do that at the first opportunity.
Quarterback on a rookie deal.
That's right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Like, I think the best thing financially for the Lions after this season, when you have to start extending like Holmes's draft picks, you have to get $30 million off your books. You have to give Hooker a chance to run the team, and you have to maybe it's not Sewell, but maybe it is McNeil and St. Brown. And you have to front load those deals so that you get declining cap hits in years like 2, 3, like 3 or 4 or whatever of their extensions.
So I will say, like, one of the reasons why having declining cap hits is important is because if they don't live up to their cap, to their contract, or they get hurt, you want to be able to cut them and not have giant dead money numbers, right? So if you can front load that stuff, and in year 3 of a 5-year deal, he's just whatever, he's fallen off, or he's got a nagging toe injury and he barely plays, like Frank Ragnow. Like, you want to be able to go cut bait and not go, well, we're still screwed, so we might as well not cut bait, kind of thing. So that is important.
So Steve-O raises a point here. You want as much cap as possible right now for the Lions. I feel like they have a Super Bowl team in the next 3 or 4 years. And so so then cap space right now doesn't matter. You want cap space in 3 or 4 years when you make the run.
Well, I think he's saying this year, next year, the year after that, and possibly as far as the year after that are the years
so
of the window.
If he's saying that the window is open for the next 3 or 4 years, then I have to disagree with that too. Because are we keeping Ben Johnson? Because I don't think it's yes.
Oh man, we're 5 minutes after. Do we want to go into the Ben Johnson talk? Like, I'm up for it if you are.
So I'm not going anywhere. So like, get the salary cap stuff off the thing, will you? The next 3-4 years can make. So you're saying, let me see if I'm understanding Steve-O correctly.
The window is 3 to 4.
The next 3 to 4 years, the Lions can make a Super Bowl run in those years. So let me pose this question to you. How much do we think Ben Johnson is responsible for Jared Goff's success? Because I think it's really high.
Yeah. Is 90% of the success an unreasonable number to assume?
Okay. So he says yes. So at least we're all talking about the same thing here. So if in reality Ben Johnson is largely responsible for Jared Goff's, let's call it a resurrection, shall we? Or elite level play this season. And he takes a job that is not the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. What does Jared Goff look like? I don't know. I doubt he looks like this year's Jared Goff. Okay? So we're already two ifs, right?
Right.
If that's the case, and this goes from elite level Jared Goff to level 70 PFF grade Jared Goff, there is no Super Bowl window. There is no Super Bowl window. He's not good enough. He's not good enough. Our new OC is going to be even better.
I love the optimism.
What is this? Where am I? Is not Ben Johnson a top 5 or 3 offensive coordinator in the NFL? Who's out there that's going to leave their position and come to Detroit to do the same position?
I think Ben is a good
JT Barrett. He went to Ohio State. That can't happen. Okay, so let's talk about that point. So if they promote from within, I don't know I didn't know anything about him. So I didn't, I think the thing I said was, who's this guy?
I think that's his point, is like, we can't overlook Barrett and Engstrom.
So let me ask you this then. The plan is to have another secret super genius hiding in the wings within the organization. Excellent. Well, I'm super on board with that plan.
But here's a caveat, though. That super secret genius can't follow his mentor when he says, "Hey, I'm going to be head coach over in San Diego or LA for the Chargers now.
Mm-hmm.
You want to come be my OC?" You know what I'm saying? I don't have a point. I'm coping.
Well,
coping with the eventual reality of like losing Ben Johnson to a head coaching gig and potentially having our offense drop down a pretty significant notch.
If you told me as Ben Johnson, if I was the LA Chargers first call and you're like, you want me to coach Justin Herbert and have a top 10 pick this year? I'm going to go live in LA and fucking do that, because I'm going to attach my star to a quarterback that's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, who you can argue has never had an offensive minded head coach that knew what the fuck they were doing. And like, the least you can say about Ben Johnson is that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
that's obvious. So
I do wonder if he's going to be the Adam Gase type of thing, where
do not invoke that name.
No, he He went to my high school. He's a good guy.
No.
But so like the problem with Adam Gase was he was promoted to a level above his competency. So it's the Peter principle, if you've never heard of it, where a person gets promoted to one level above. Hey, if you're a good technician, we should make you an engineer. If you're a good engineer, we should make you a manager. Well, maybe that person's a good engineer, but not manager, right? And I think that's what happened to Ben Gase or Adam Gase, is that he was a very good quarterbacks coach. He was a good offensive coordinator. He got into that head coach gig, and that was just one level above where his real like wheelhouse was. And it's possible Ben Johnson's the same way, but you don't really know until it happens. So
correct.
And any team is going to go until it happens. He may not be at the peak, right? So let's keep going until we find out what his peak is.
Sure. So I'm going to answer Steve-O's last question here. The unfinished business that Ben Johnson had was that he didn't want to work for David fucking Tepper in Carolina. That was the unfinished business, is that the opportunities were trash. Like what good opportunities were there out there last year for Ben? Like being able to, I mean, LA's already fired their coach. Like that is a coaching search that's going to happen.
Yes.
Like Chicago, depending on how they finish the season, the last 3 games, might have a coaching change.
Do they have an interim coach in LA yet?
Yeah.
Who
I don't know his name, but I saw they named a guy.
Okay. Because I know, or at least I had read that they...
yes, it's assuming it's in the future.
Yeah. I had read that they had offered the position to offense and or defensive coordinator, and they turned it down because they didn't want to hitch their horse to this year's team and be out of a running for a potential head coaching gig next year.
That makes sense.
So I hadn't heard that they actually hired an interim coach.
Well, I named one. I mean, it's not an outside hire, I don't think. I think they figured out someone who's going to call plays, and they hired an interim coach and an interim GM. But like, if you're Ben Johnson, you cannot, if you're going to stay the OC of the Detroit Lions, you're going to be an offensive coordinator your entire career. Fine.
$20. Losers Venmo to the winner.
I don't have Venmo, but sure. Like, I can download it, I guess. But like, I don't think that Ben Johnson is going to... Can you name me a hotter name on the coaching market than Ben Johnson? He was maybe the number 1 option for a lot of teams last year. And then the Lions have this kind of success. His contract is up. Like, you have to... Like, if you're Ben Johnson, this is your time to establish yourself. Jim Harbaugh's not leaving Michigan. He loves to flirt with the NFL or whatever. But like, Jim Harbaugh is not getting out of Michigan unless an NFL team gives him basically control of the organization. So, and that's not happening. England? Well, Robert Kraft, if Bill Belichick is not the coach in New England, then Robert Kraft is coming off of 25 years of... Jim Harbaugh is not a hotter name as an NFL coach than Ben Johnson.
He's about as hot, similarly hot.
He's always but this year is the same exact thing with Jim Harbaugh that it has been the last 2 or 3 years, and this always happens. Is that someone always says that Jim Harbaugh is going to leave Michigan and coach in the NFL, and it has not happened. So
he is currently the second highest odds of taking the head coaching position at, I think it was Chargers. I think it was in LA. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and he was last year too. So I mean, good job, Vegas.
Yeah, I don't think
you nailed it in
he's going to
2023.
leave.
So I mean, like my guess will be that Michigan is going to pay Jim Harbaugh what he wants, and he is going to string this out as long as he possibly can to generate more and more leverage.
Let's do it.
and make more and more money. So I mean, I don't know why not. Michigan is doing as well as they ever have in his tenure at this point. And you're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to walk away from that because so I can coach the Vikings or I can coach the New England Patriots. Like, I just don't see it. Like, but if someone were to say, like, here, run the whole organization and have total control, yeah, maybe. Well, he didn't. I mean, like, if you wanted to go and interview for the Carolina Panthers job, then great. But, like, that's almost like, hey, let's go out to Arby's and just have a really good meal. Like, nah. I mean, you might think it's really great, but, like, not everybody else does. The job is cursed. Well, so were the fucking Lions for, like, the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on.
One of the hot assistant coaches, though, and that didn't work. So that could be a hot take. Hire Staley as the DC.
I don't mind that.
Say, like, Staley was with LA, right before going to this
for 1 year. Yep.
For 1 year, and in a lot of the LA rooms, they are like, for the love of God, as much as they want to get rid of their current defensive coordinator, they really don't want Staley back as their defensive coordinator. So I found that really interesting because he was only there for a year, I think.
Well, but he had like a top 5 defense that year. Like in that year in LA, like he revolutionized. I mean, everyone in the NFL runs his defense from that year now.
Yeah, I don't know that
the cover 2 high shells. That's Brandon Staley right there.
Yeah.
Well, they're almost twins, man. I mean, like they do look a lot alike. I mean, but like if you are Ben Johnson and you say my contract's up, let's say Detroit offers him another contract, right? More money. Maybe he's an assistant head coach.
1-year deals anyway, right?
What?
I can't imagine they're 1-year deals anyway.
Well, I mean, he signed a 1-year deal to come back this year.
He did?
Yeah.
It was just a 1-year deal?
Yeah. So I remember it differently than Steve-O remembers it. So the way that I remember it is that like Black Monday happens or whatever it is. Everyone gets fired. And then, of course, like your agent is out there like taking the pulse. You know, like who's going to make an offer? Who wants to fly you out? Whatever. And like, you talk about those opportunities. And like last year, the teams that fired a bunch of coaches were who fired coaches last year in the NFL. I'm having trouble finding Houston, right? D'Amico Ryan's got that job. Indianapolis. Denver, right? Denver switched. Arizona. Tampa, no. Did Tampa switch their coach? Carolina. Arthur Smith, I don't think, is in his first year in Atlanta. Green Bay, no. Minnesota, no. Minnesota hired Kevin O'Connell. Dallas, no. New York, no. Philly, no. Washington, no. So what are those 5 teams? Houston, Denver, Arizona, Carolina, somebody else? None of those prospects look as good as what if the Chargers with Justin Herbert and a top 10 pick say, hey, we want to fly you out for a discussion? Nobody. So like he has theoretically better options this year than he did last year. And he might be the number 1 choice for one of these organizations. So that's not the point. My point is, if he leaves, which I think is likely, I think Jared Goff takes a nosedive. And I think the regression that you could see on this team is immense.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, and he leaves, and let's say you bring in somebody else that's competent to replace him, Ken Dorsey. from Buffalo or some college prodigy, whatever. Eric Bieniemy, maybe. Yeah, that would be a cool hire. Somebody like that. And Jared Goff has to switch, or you promote from within, like Tanner Eggleston or whatever his name is, or JT Barrett, which I cannot abide. But like, okay, let's assume that maybe that's an option. We don't know what they'll be. I know what they won't be, and that's Ben Johnson, right? They might be him to a degree. That's the question, like to what degree? If the degree is Jared Goff doesn't appreciably get any worse, fine. Then you've nailed it. Then you found your super secret genius waiting in the wings or whatever. Somebody who can make it run an offense that doesn't make Jared Goff look terrible. This is the NFL, dude, and I am a Detroit Lions fan, and you want me to have faith. Well, I'll tell you what, dude. I lived off of faith in the Detroit Lions. I'm 41. I started watching football when I was 7. Okay? So, like, I have been operating off of faith for a long-ass time. Not as long as everybody, but a long-ass time. Don't tell me 30 plus isn't enough.
Yeah.
So, in the last 3 years, that's the only time I've had legitimate hope that this team's going to be good. And when you are good in the modern NFL, people copy you and they steal your people. And Ben Johnson, if he has that opportunity, should take it. Because it's probably more money, it's a step up. And like, I don't think that he got into football to be an offensive coordinator. He probably got into football to someday be and I'm not going to put faith on this.
Yeah.
When like you have to, like, Brad Holmes is not leaving this shit up to faith. You know, he's figuring out a plan for this. And that's like what we're trying to do here too, is like to figure out like, what if?
Yeah.
So like the point of this conversation is, if Jared Goff gets any worse for any reason, the team is fucking in a lot of trouble. For as much as I dislike Jared Goff as a quarterback prospect, if he gets worse, it gets bad fast. Has anyone watched the last 5 weeks? Because that is the difference in how, like, the team, the players are the same. The difference is Jared Goff played well, and they look like world beaters. And if he doesn't play well, they look real bad.
Yeah. Because
now you're gonna
when he's not playing well, he is costing games.
Correct.
With the turnovers, right?
Right. So like, Brad Holmes is correct in saying, and we've quoted him in a couple of times saying this, like, it's easier to get worse at quarterback.
Did you say Brad Holmes or
Brad Gnomes?
Brad Gnomes.
Well, since the human said it, I said Holmes. But like, I think that you could expand that quote to be, I think he meant like, oh, if you move on from Jared Goff, you can get worse at quarterback. Well, you can also keep Jared Goff and have the situation change and have Jared Goff get worse. You don't know. Let's see.
Yeah. So I definitely think that I think even to Steve-O's question about how do we know Dan Campbell doesn't have more to do with the offense?
Sure.
That's possible. Like, we don't know who's officially making schemes and stuff like that. That's typically the offensive coordinator role, is to build the offensive scheme, not just themselves, but as a coaching staff. But at the same time, when Dan Campbell was focusing on offense and calling plays, our offense was bad.
It was not great.
Like, we were 3-11-1 that year. And we really didn't start picking things up until literally the week after Ben Johnson started calling plays. So whether it's Ben Johnson's calling plays, or he's doing all the scheming, or if he's just maybe Campbell scheming, but Ben Johnson's calling the plays, there's a distinct difference when he's calling the plays versus when he wasn't calling the plays. And that's really the important piece.
Right. So, and whether it's Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, whatever Venn diagram they're having it crossed over, the crux of this whole conversation is what do you do to keep Jared Goff playing at this level, right? So if there is a plan to maintain this level of Jared Goff, that's what you have to do. Whether that's retaining Ben Johnson, promoting an assistant of Ben Johnson's who runs the same scheme, or doing something else that Jared Goff is really good at, keeping him playing this way is the absolute most important thing on the roster, bar none. Full stop. If those things don't happen and he regresses, it's a nightmare scenario for Detroit. So the question is, if I am a proponent of if your situation is changing, you got to switch quarterbacks. You bring in something new with a new philosophy, bring in a quarterback that learns that philosophy off the bat or knows it already. Don't ask your quarterback who speaks Spanish to learn French. That's a bad idea. I saw that Matt Stafford's entire career. And I shudder to think what the career that Matthew Stafford could have had if he'd had 3 offensive coordinators instead of like 9 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Competent ones.
No. I don't want a reason to get rid of Goff. They should get rid of Goff. And there's innumerable reasons for that. Money, improvement at the position, the fact that their coaching staff and front office might be changed. But like I'm also
even just the performance ceiling.
Yeah, like Jared Goff, and like Mike loves to say this, he doesn't throw a good ball. He can't throw the ball very far. And like he's never thrown the ball in front of a wide receiver to save his goddamn life. So
Don't say never. Never's too much on the absolute. I saw it once.
Go find me a picture and we'll see the last time he threw the ball on a crossing route in front of his wide receiver.
It was probably this past game. He played pretty damn good this past game.
I say week 11. Week 11 or earlier, it would be my guess. The over-under is week 11. But like, I'm not going to swap out Jared Goff for just anybody else. Like they either drafted him or
Mariota.
Correct. I'm not signing Mariota off. Like, come on in, Marcus. Like, let's do this.
Kirk Cousins.
Okay, so like, let's talk about that.
So before we talk about that, I want to give you a concept that Amazon uses in their hiring that I read in a book. It's called Working. It's called Working Backwards. It's a great book. You should definitely read it. But one of the things that they talk about in their hiring process is that there is a person in their interview whose job is labeled as bar raiser. And the concept is this person is going to just make sure that the person we're bringing in raises the bar for that role in a meaningful way. Okay. So that way, if I'm on a team and I'm like, oh man, we just lost somebody, I really need to get somebody in. This guy's good enough. The bar raiser's there to go, you're not getting better in anything. You're either staying status quo or getting worse. So I think that's one of those concepts that we have to figure out. Like when we do replace a guy like Jared Goff or any player, you have to, especially if you're going to do it in a free agent type of thing or even like draft, like, are you raising the bar in a way? So as we talk about this conversation about replacing Goff potentially with a guy like Kirk Cousins, are we raising the bar in a meaningful way with the replacement? And go. So that was kind of the part that I wanted to throw out there as you think about, as you talk about what your thoughts were on, would Cousins be a suitable replacement for Goff?
I have more confidence in what Kirk Cousins can do than I do with Jared Goff. But like, do you then have to bring in an offensive mind that does what Kirk Cousins does well?
Right.
So like, what? I don't know. I think it's the same thing that Jared Goff does.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So you're not raising the bar with him. You're just probably getting a little bit better consistency.
Is that not a bar raise?
I mean, I guess it depends on how much more consistent. If you're like, fractionally better, then I'd say it's probably a fairly lateral move.
Sure.
But if you're getting significant, I think I think Cousins can throw deeper with more accuracy. I think he raises the bar there. He's slightly more mobile. He's kind of like a Stafford, more mobile than Goff, but he's not a mobile quarterback. He's not a runner, but he can evade the pocket quite a bit. So I think in those two places he raises the bar, and I think he meets the bar in all the other places that Goff meets the bar.
So the other day I did a mock draft, and Jaden Daniels, the Heisman winning quarterback from LSU, fell to 28 or wherever the Lions were picking. And then he would have been the third quarterback off the board, fourth quarterback off the board, depending if you like Michael Penix. And so, like, I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, boy, the Lions need a corner. Lions need a edge rusher. I can think of, right guard, a couple other things. Is the best thing for this team to draft Jaden Daniels at 28? And I took him. Because I think that he offers more than what Jared Goff does. Is he going to be as good as Jared Goff? Probably not for a couple years. But I think about the points that Steve-O is making. He's like, oh, what did he just say? There's no chance Goff is gone before 2025. So he has to play out this last year on his deal, right? The biggest mistake I think the Lions can make is to extend Jared Goff. Period. Doesn't matter the numbers. The Lions
Cousins for Goff.
I would trade Cousins for Goff.
I'm assuming he meant trade for Cousins. Trade for Cousins.
Well, I think what he says is I do think Daniels will end up being a top 10 pick, which is why I don't think it's a plausible scenario. But in that instance, what I thought was, if this in the multiverse of draft things that could potentially happen, maybe it comes out a day before the draft that Jaden Daniels loves weed or whatever, or raced his car on the highway 90 miles an hour or some shit, right? That something that prevents you from taking a dude high. And he fell to where the Lions were picking for whatever reason. And I'm judging that player based solely on what they can bring to my team. I think the best thing is to take a quarterback, and if you have a Hendon Hooker v. whatever quarterback battle with Jared Goff off the roster, so be it. But Steve-O's probably right. There's probably not a realistic scenario where Jared Goff doesn't play out the last year of his deal on this team.
I don't know. I think there's a couple scenarios. Number one requires injury. I think if he gets hurt right now, Hendon Hooker comes in. Maybe Bridgewater plays the first game because Hendon Hooker just got activated and probably needs some more reps. But I can definitely see and I don't want this to happen because I think Jared Goff is playing really well in the system right now. But since we're talking scenarios, if he gets hurt, Bridgewater comes in, finishes this game against the Vikings. Maybe he plays like crap. I don't know. Hendon Hooker, I think, could potentially play the last two games. And if he just comes in Tom Brady style, where you're just I know you got hurt, bro, but this is my team now, and come in and play really well, I could see him potentially starting next year and allowing the Lions to trade away Jared Goff, and that would save. So trade pre-June 1 would have a $26.975 million cap savings. So I think that's the only real scenario where that takes place. Otherwise, I think Goff plays next year. Hooker is the backup, and that is his last year. I don't think he's going to play in 2025.
So the only thing I'll say,
which means he's not getting an extension.
Well, here's the thing that I'll say is that if the Lions have not rushed to extend anybody on the roster that I would define as in their long-term plans. Because most of those dudes are on rookie deals, and you don't have to think about that right now.
Yep.
And the players that don't fit that bill are 5 people, maybe. Romeo Quara, probably not in it. Tracy Walker, probably not in it. So on and so forth. But, and we've talked about this too, the stock option mentality. If you have someone like Jared Goff, who's 32? Well, this is year 8 in the NFL for him, right?
He is age 29 right now.
Really? Younger than I thought. So, if you have Jared Goff at 29, playing at this level, and there's some other team out there that is convinced that this is who Jared Goff is now, and they're like, we will give you a 2 and a 3 for Jared Goff. You have to take that deal. You have to take that deal. And you have to get the 20 plus million off your books, get your extra draft capital, give Hendon Hooker a shot, trade up in the first round, which Brad has done. He traded up from 32 to 12. That's a 20 spot jump. If you go from 28 to 8, probably more expensive. But Jaden Daniels could be there at 8. And
but do we need Jaden Daniels if we got Hendon Hooker?
So here's the thing about Hendon Hooker.
Hooker was a candidate until he got hurt. He was playing outstanding.
Hendon Hooker played 4 years at Virginia, or 2 years, sat 2 years and then played 2 years and was terrible. And he transferred to Tennessee. And then a transfer from Michigan, Joe Milton, who was Tennessee's quarterback this year, beat him out and then didn't play in the non-conference schedule very well. And Hendon Hooker took over and played 10 games for Tennessee and did well. Congrats. His entire projection into the NFL is 10 college games. Yeah, maybe they don't, Steve-O, but at that point, what are you doing? I mean, the era of sitting QBs and quote unquote developing them in the NFL and then having a natural transition is effectively over in the NFL. People draft quarter, huh? I mean, what?
Windows are too tight.
Windows are too tight.
Windows for championship windows and rebuilding windows and keeping the coach with a job window.
That's the other huge part of that, typically. Now, I'll say that that's probably offset a little bit in our case because Dan has a 6-year contract and he's going to go into year 4 next year. But year 4, I mean, Brad has a 5-year deal, so he's going into year 4 of his 5-year deal. So you better start thinking that Dan and Brad are looking at contract extensions pretty soon from Sheila. So I'm of the opinion that the way that they built the roster is we're not going to rock the boat, maintain steady progress, get to the extension type of decision making. So Steve-O's right. I mean, we're probably not trading up in the first round to get a rookie quarterback and then play that guy. But if you did, is there a roster better set up in the NFL to start a rookie quarterback than the Detroit Lions? You have to replace a starting right guard on offense. Done.
Yeah.
And then you can devote the rest of your free agency and draft to fixing the defense. Come on. There's no Anthony Richardson did not step into that situation this year. CJ Stroud did not step in that situation this year. Bryce Young didn't. No one did. So, I mean,
Stroud's offensive rookie of the year, right?
I can't imagine it's anybody else. Even with him getting hurt.
He's not. Even with Puka Nacua just killing it and setting records, rookie records, it's still it's gonna be Stroud.
I can't imagine any offensive award ever being won by a non-quarterback again.
Yeah.
Just not the way it works. So we're almost to 2 hours, so I'm going to wrap this lineup. Is that the Detroit Lions have to do whatever they possibly can to not have Jared Goff regress, or they have to get Jared Goff off the roster and transition to somebody else.
Yeah.
That process will have to happen at some point in the future. But I don't believe in 3 to 4 year Super Bowl windows anymore. Hell, Joe Burrow has played 4 years. He's had 2 season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert doesn't have a playoff win. You know, like there's an elite level of quarterback play, and then there are rosters, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, you know, comes to mind right away, that like you can have sufficient play at quarterback and then get there. Well, the Lions don't have the roster yet. They might in a couple of years, but they're not going to be challenging for Super Bowls while they're building it. If you extend Goff, I think that's it, because then I think the salary cap becomes an absolute terrible problem. I just don't see how they can do it and then sign everybody to the kind of deals they're going to have to sign them to.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Super quick Week 16 preview. Minnesota at home against Detroit at home against Minnesota. What's the one thing that you're expecting from this game, and what's the one thing you're hoping to see from this game?
I'm expecting the Lions to crush these guys. I bet $45, which was everything I had left in my DraftKings account, on the over on this game being 47 points or higher. So I think that it's going to be no defense, all offense, basically what you saw last week against Denver. And I expect the team that played the Denver Broncos to come in and destroy the Vikings and clinch the playoff spot.
Yep.
And that was what I was hoping to see, and then what am I expecting to see?
So that was what you're expecting to see. What's one thing that you're hoping to see?
That Jameson Williams gets more than like 3 fucking targets.
He played well this last week, and
he did play well.
Targets.
And like the issue that I think that I'm starting to see is that when you have St. Brown and Laporta, there's no reason to throw to anyone else. So what's the reason? Why have Jameson Williams on the team?
It's the black hole effect, right?
Right.
Anything nearby, it's just going to go right to those guys.
Goff has such confidence in those two guys, and then they can go to Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield, just running the ball, as far as like offensive snaps and like what they're dedicating it to. That like I don't know that Jameson Williams is ever going to be a 5-catch wide receiver in the NFL, and like I think that is a real miss if that is the case.
Yeah,
I would be like first offensive possession, I would be designing plays for Jameson Williams just to be like, what if? Let's see. What can he do with his ball? He looked pretty good with the ball in his hands, juking that motherfucker out of his shoes to get a first down last week.
Play, flea flicker.
Oh, my God. If Jared Goff could throw the ball 50 yards down the field, I would absolutely run that play, but he cannot.
Yeah. So I think not only is there a black hole effect with those two guys, I also think that the thing that Jameson Williams does best are those deep routes.
Yeah.
And those are the routes that require patience and the ability to let the route develop, and that is not Jared Goff's strong suit. Jared Goff is very much a West Coast offense kind of guy. Quick, who's my first, who's my second, and that's it. So those longer developing routes are just not going to be hit. And I think that's the other piece that keeps him from being, not that he's Justin Jefferson, but like we don't know, right? Because he's never been put into a position where he could do Justin Jefferson things.
So the other thing that I think that I would say to build on what you just said, Mike, is that I don't need him to run 9 routes. Like if he wants to run crossers and slants and that type of thing, fine. But like that requires a quarterback that can put the ball in front of him. If there is a quarterback on the roster that can hit Jameson Williams in stride, you have to play that guy.
Yeah.
Because I think that there have been times where I'm like, oh, if he just gets the Lions have a couple of guys, Gibbs, J-Mo, maybe even Laporta in a way. Yeah.
Hatters.
Bullseye Hatters.
Reading my mind, buddy.
But like, let's say the Lions go into next year and they do, and they say we're going to start Hendon Hooker. Then you have to run an offense that's good at what Hendon Hooker is good at, right? And like the problem with what Tennessee ran last year is that you cannot run it in the NFL because the hash marks are not in the same places on the field. So the ball is more in the center of the field in the NFL than it is in college. It's a physical thing that prevents the offense from being run. So I don't know that what Hendon Hooker's learning curve is going to look like. But what I do know is he is one of those guys that can go 55 yards.
Yeah.
55 yards.
Accurately.
And if you can just 2-3 times a game, 1 or 2 times a game, take a shot, or just like, post route. Deep curl, deep cut in. Like if you get the ball to JMO in space, he can literally just run past people.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, Tyreek Hill isn't catching all of his,
right.
Those are not like 45-yard air yard passes. There's some of those, but like Tua doesn't have a super strong arm. But
right.
Those in routes and stuff like that, you just get him moving in stride in space, and he's gone.
And you can't steal some shit from the Dolphins. Come on.
Right. It just frustrates me that we're not seeing similar from JMO.
So what I would hope to see in the game is that, like, I would love to see a 5 or 6 target game for JMO. Minnesota has a terrible defense. If you get up 10 points, force it. But like, start to use this kid. I mean, it's been.
You don't know what you got unless you try.
Yeah, this is like 8 games since he's been back. Like, you're not learning who he is.
Yeah. So for me, I'm expecting a win. I'm expecting a win by 10 points or more. And what I'd like to see is pretty much, you kind of stole it, I want to see JMO get more involved. I think we're grossly underutilizing him. The good news is we got plenty of wins without using him. I just think that we could be more dominant and more diverse with our offense and make it more challenging for our opponents to play us if we can get him involved quite a bit more. If you're like, all I need to do is put 2 guys on St. Brown and have a linebacker play on Laporta, all of a sudden we're completely screwed. And right. I don't want that. We're too, I don't say one-dimensional because there's obviously a couple guys, and we have a run game, but like, I don't want to make it easy on our opponents. And I think getting a guy like JMO in there totally changes what the offense can do, which means it totally changes what the defense has to prepare for. So
it's Nick Mullins, for Christ's sake.
Nick Mullins.
It's Nick Mullins. Do you even know who I'm talking about? I mean, like
the quarterback.
Yeah, that's who Minnesota's QB is. Like, you have to be able to beat this guy.
Yeah, I think we will. It would have to be a -3 turnover margin to, I think, lose. Maybe -2, depending on how bad those 2 are. But like, we'd have to really lose the turnover margin to lose, I think. All right, let's wrap this up. So we do have the Discord, which is cool. We're getting a little bit of stuff in there. I've been kind of live chatting during the games on the Game Day Chat channel, so that's fun. I'll probably do that again this weekend. Other than that, pound the like button, subscribe. We're trying to get up to 100 subs. We're at 88, and I'm hoping if we can get to 100, maybe do a kind of like we did with the draft day and do a live game watching stream for week 18 against Minnesota, where hopefully we are just playing for seeding and trying to go for the number 2 seed ideally.
Yeah. So I'm going to debut a new sign off, I guess, tonight. Let me know what you guys think about it. I only got 2 left in the chat. So you can't restore the roar without building the pride. Have a great night, everybody.
I like it. See you guys.